Work. I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. Reflex still the king. Bow down, motherfuckers. How you doing, baby? You looking good? You feeling good? So this video is all about why Reflex is the greatest arcade motocross game of all time. It's actually pretty simple. There's really just three main things that makes it the greatest arcade motocross game ever. So number one is the feeling on the bike. Number two is content. Number three is track design. That's it. Those are the only reasons why Reflex is so amazing. It's not about the graphics. I mean, Reflex's graphics weren't like terrible, but even back in the day, it wasn't like, oh my god, those graphics are just so amazing or anything like that. So that's not really the reason why it's so amazing. It's not the greatest of all time because of some sort of story mode or some sort of campaign. That's not really why people buy Reflex. So you see why I say the things that I say about games like the official Monster Energy Supercross game, because everything they focus on in that game are all of the reasons why the greatest arcade motocross game of all time is not as good as what it is. You see what I'm saying? Like, all the things that make the official Monster Energy Supercross game what it is and what they seem to focus on more than anything else are the complete opposite reasons of why Reflex is the greatest game of all time. So you see why I say what I say, right? The things that don't really matter in the greatest arcade motocross game of all time, aka graphics, aka story mode, all that crap, that's what they seem to focus on more than anything in the official Monster Energy Supercross game. So you can see where my concerns come from. You can see where my opinions come from, dog. Like, Reflex just has that ability to, even though your grandma can play this game, you can play this game for 4 years straight and still feel like you're getting better at it. That's why Reflex is so great. If you could just put it in one sentence, that's it right there, right? It's that feeling on the bike, man. Excuse me, crashing a little bit. Been a minute since I played Reflex, but there's just no other way to explain it. It's second to none when it comes to arcade motocross games. There's nothing else out there like this. Even a decade later, there is nothing out there that has this kind of feeling to it. You know that feeling where you're actually a little bit scared to hold the throttle wide open all the way through a corner because you just know that it's going to be really hard to control that bike, and the whole skill of like learning how to start leaning back in the corners to really put the power to the ground and really having to hook up over jumps on supercross tracks. That's a whole skill to the game, trying to learn rhythms on supercross tracks, and it's actually a difficult thing to hit every lap. The track design, the default stock track designs in the game, second to none on that as well. I mean, they had the awesome combination of sand national tracks, hard pack national tracks. You had the standard default, like more so brownie mix dirt tracks. You had, even with the DLC, you got more muddy style, and then even with some of the default like Razorback tracks, you had some of the like red clay style mud tracks, and all of those tracks felt different than each other, like quite a bit different. It really felt like when you were on a sand track, that was totally different than when you're on a hard pack track, and then that was totally different than when you're on a brownie mix track. All the different jump designs, every track felt different and unique to it. You could even go as far to say even the tracks that are on the same biome, national tracks, still feel totally different. There's like two tracks apiece on each one of the national biomes. Even those feel totally different from each other, and they're the same damn biome. So just that alone makes this game downright amazing right there. It's the feeling on the bike first and foremost, but it's also the content and the track design. That's just what is allowing that physics system to actually be usable, to actually use it on different stuff. And then they got their whole Supercross side. Some of the best Supercross tracks we've ever seen in any game ever before, in my opinion, is this game right here. You got some Supercross tracks that are smaller, more one-to-one scale, replica style, more like real-life Supercross, and you got other more bigger jump fantasy style Supercross tracks. You got every combination of everything. Every Supercross track is super memorable. You start to learn every single one of them, and you learn every jump rhythm. Takes you months upon years to master certain jump rhythms and different line options. There's so many different ways to go fast on all the tracks in the game. Obviously, this is a custom track on PC. Oh, hey, we haven't even got into the PC version where we got 10,000 custom tracks for Reflex. First-person camera mods. It's got the whole custom content user-created side on the PC version. But if you don't even, I'll even go as far as say it right now. Spencer Turley said it first. If you don't even mention the PC version of Reflex at all, it's still the fucking greatest motocross game of all time, arcade-wise. It still is, even if you don't mention the PC version. So suck on that one for a minute, dog. Like, seriously. If that don't go to prove something to you, I don't know what else will. You know, everybody making all these excuses for some of these Milestone games, like, you can't compare it to some of these PC motocross games that have all this custom content. Even if you don't compare it, Reflex is still light years ahead of any Milestone motocross game. Fucking light years, and you're clueless if you think otherwise. You do not understand motocross games if you think otherwise. You just don't. Go back and play Reflex, you idiots. You're so lost. You are so lost if you think that. And better yet, go play it on Xbox 360, because it's even got a better feeling on the bike, in my opinion, on the 360 than it did on PC. It feels a little bit more realistic. Your scrubs feel a little bit better. Whips feel a little bit better on the PC on the 360 version. Sorry, PC version kind of has a little bit of a almost like input delay to it. A little bit of different feeling, slightly different feeling to it, even if you're playing with a controller on PC. So just something to keep in mind, be aware of. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, good God, man, like. It's just the arcade motocross game of all time. The feeling, and there is no seat bounce button in this game at all. So you really do have to get speed out of the corners. You have to know how to get traction out of corners. You have to know how to carry your speed and momentum around corners. That's everything to being able to hit jumps. It's got the whole lean forward, lean back really quick to hook up over jump rhythms. Whoops are actually difficult in this game if you hit them really, really hard, especially if you start getting on some custom track whoops that are bigger. But even in the base version of the game, you know, if you're really hauling ass around some of those stock supercross tracks and you're just absolutely flying and you're going around some different whoop sections and stuff, it's like it's just another level. This game has that ability similar to a simulator, not as crazy of an extent, but similar in the sense of feeling like you can just go faster and faster and faster and faster. And it seems like with most other arcade motocross games, they just cannot capture that sort of feeling to them. That they'll either, like, you'll start playing the game and then just a month later, it's like you feel like you're just on the gas everywhere and you're maxed out everywhere and you can't go any faster. But with Reflex, there's always that little bit of, you feel like you can push yourself just a little bit harder. You can try to get a little bit more consistent. If you get super, super fast and you're trying to get super consistent, then you're trying to learn how to hit that perfect, huge quad line every lap. And there's always some line on every single stock track on Reflex. Every single track that's actually really hard to hit. Even if you consider yourself like a quote-unquote pro in this game, there is still at least one jump rhythm, one section to some degree on every single track, even if you've put months and months and years into this game, that still is going to give you a challenge to be able to hit it every lap. And so it makes every track exciting. It makes every track have that fun factor. There's something for everybody. You got small jump line rhythms for the more beginner style players. You've got the easiness, arcadey feeling on the bike for your grandma. You've got still that endless amounts of skill gap feeling if you're more of a pro style player. It is just the absolute perfect mixture of an arcade motocross game, like as far as skill gap wise. It's the perfect mixture. It's not too much in any one direction. You know what MXGP Pro was trying to accomplish, right? They were trying to give you that more realistic motocross feeling experience, trying to get more for the pro-style people, right? You know, they were trying to pull off what Reflex has already pulled off 10 years ago. It's basically sort of like MXGP Pro, but minus all of the janky feelings that MXGP Pro comes with, and it doesn't have those shitty-ass whips that feel like you can barely move. You know, I mean, Reflex has the ability to where you can scrub over jumps. You can throw whips over jumps. You can pancake it. You can throw it backwards. You can get up under the bike. You can build your entire own whip style in Reflex. You can scrub, like I said, off of stuff, and depending on how hard you hit jump faces is how hard you're going to be able to scrub and how much speed you're actually going to be able to cut off of jumps and all of that. So there's that whole skill to it. There's the whole skill with the terrain deformation in Reflex, which I still think is the best in any motocross game, period, even any simulator out there. Reflex still has the best terrain deformation system. The ground is actually soft, but still has a bit of a sturdiness to a rut depending on how big it gets. So it's got that combination of soft cush in the corner dirt filling, but also some hardcore rut design fillings as well. So it's got the both variation of that. Different tracks in the game seem to rut up differently. Your sand tracks make completely different sand, burn, blasted, more choppy style roughness than like your standard brownie mix style tracks, which seem to make more hardcore, sticky kind of ruts and stuff on it. I mean, it's crazy what this game was able to accomplish, and I don't know if we'll ever see something quite like MX vs ATV Reflex, man. I just don't know. There's just so many levels to it that I can't hardly even explain it. There's just so many levels. Just when you think you're starting to get really, really good at it, all of a sudden you somehow find another gear in a corner, and then you're going even faster, and then you get on this another level, and then 5 weeks later you're somehow on another level, and you're scrubbing, whipping backwards over every jump, hitting quad 5-7 lines, flying around corners, never letting off the gas in supercross corners, hucking jumps. Then you start racing with people, and then it just amplifies all of that fun factor, because the collision in Reflex is not terrible at all. So you've got that whole side of where you can kind of bump and grind on people, but it's not like you can just bump and ricochet till the end of time, but no one ever falls off of their bike, a.k.a. just about every other arcade motocross game nowadays. You can just sit there and bump around till the end of mankind. I think they kind of started doing that in a live, which is really stupid. I think you got to have that balance. You got to have that combination of, doesn't need to make the rider fall off instantly, but at the same time, if you bump hard enough, like somebody needs to go down, or both of you need to go down, but you still need to be able to bump and rub and, kiss on people a little bit if you have to. You got to be able to have that little, like, where you can run up in on somebody and just kind of kiss them a little bit in the corner, and then sometimes you can still come out, without going down, and sometimes you're going to go down, so it's kind of running that risk of if you really want to or you don't. Then you got all the pre-made rut designs on the custom tracks. You've got all the different biomes in the custom tracks. It's got that whole aspect of it. I mean, people just don't get it. They just don't get why Reflex is so great. And it's so disappointing that people truly don't understand. Everyone just wants the newest of the new. Everybody just wants the new motocross game. Everybody wants this, that, and another, and they just don't understand, man. Like, you are missing out if you're not playing Reflex. Even to this day, you're missing out. 10 years later, you're still missing out. Like, oh my God, man. Do you not see the difference in, like, a game that comes out and lasts 2 months versus a game that comes out and lasts 10 years? Do you not see how crazy that is? How different that really is? And people always get on to me for comparing every game to Reflex and MX Simulator, but why the fuck wouldn't I? You dumbasses, why wouldn't I compare it? Do you not want a good arcade motocross game again? I know I want a good one. I don't know if you just want to sit over there and just accept, painfully average arcade motocross games, but I want a good one again. So I'm going to keep on comparing it back to a good one, so that hopefully these idiot companies can realize, oh, hey, why don't we actually try to make something more like that again? Oh, hey, and I think they have. Like, as far as All Out, I think they're trying to get back to it. I still don't think they're there. They're still not, right there on it, but they are certainly closer than they was in MX vs. ATV Supercross and stuff like that. They freed up their whips, kind of got back into more of the terrain deformation systems and all the content. Finally, a motocross game gets back to putting in all the content that's supposed to be in a motocross game. Supercross, motocross, freestyle, free ride, some sort of trail enduro waypoint style track, 2-strokes, 125s, 252 strokes, all that kind of stuff in there. That is just That right there that I just named off to you, if that's not in a motocross game, then it ain't a motocross game. Spencer Turley said it first, 2019. If it does not have supercross tracks, motocross tracks, freestyle, free ride, and some sort of trail enduro waypoint style tracks, and 125 two-strokes and 250 four-strokes, and 250 two-strokes and 450 four-strokes, if it does not have all those things, then it's not a motocross game. Period. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You cannot call that an actual motocross game. You can't, because it's only a piece of what an actual motocross game is. It's only a piece and a part, and half of it, if it only has supercross tracks, it's only half of it. This is what is just come to known as the norm. This isn't even like trying to add on a super amount of extra content. This is the fucking norm, bro. This is what average motocross games have in them. Supercross, motocross, freestyle, freeride, waypoint, two strokes. That's like standard. That ain't even some extra, crazy, oh my gosh, like that's too much to have in a game, Spencer. No, that's standard shit. Standard. So if a motocross game or supercross game comes out and it doesn't have that, it's lacking and slacking massively, in my opinion. But either way, man, Reflex, greatest of all time. And I don't see anybody coming close anytime soon, honestly. I just can't believe how far off the games are from Reflex. Like, I'm not even saying that these motocross games have to make one exactly like Reflex, or, I mean, I understand it's going to be hard to make one as good as Reflex. I completely understand that, but I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying they are so far off that it's like they're not even in the same stratosphere as what Reflex was. That's why I'm so damn passionate about whenever I get mad and go on these rants about some of these newer motocross games. Their whip systems and in-air physics systems and stuff is just so far behind what a game from a decade ago already had. Their terrain deformation and track designs are light years behind what a game that came out a decade ago already had. I mean, it's just pitiful. That's why I get like I get. I'm not trying to say they have to be as good as Reflex or whatever, even though you should expect a game 10 years later to actually be maybe better than that game from 10 years ago. You might think that in your head, but even if we don't even go that far, they can't even get in the ballpark here. They can't even get in sight of a game that was as good as Reflex. They can't even get a game out there that'll last more than 2 months, motocross game-wise, nowadays. It's just pitiful. It's just sad. Somebody needs to wake up. And I have to be the one out here to fucking rant on it, and I get hate, and I have to deal with all this hate from all these idiot people, that casual-ass motherfuckers that don't understand anything about motocross games. I've got to deal with all these fools that just want Ralph Shaheen to talk to them in a video game. Got to deal with all these idiots just to try to remind everybody, yo, where did the good arcade motocross games go? Where have they been? We have just slowly but surely went down the absolute shithole with them over the past 10 years. We went to Alive, which was kind of like Reflex but worse. Had no supercross tracks other than the James Stewart supercross track. So they even started it right after Reflex. They started trying to do this bullshit where they put half of a game in a game and charge you the same price for it. All the weird-ass DLC crap they've started putting in some of these MX vs. ATV games. The Milestone games, it's like half of a game content-wise. Whips are complete ass. It's like you're hitting a button doing an animation every time you come off a jump face. Jumps are lackluster on every single track in a Milestone game. Air physics are pretty much non-existent. The whole leaning back, hucking, tripling something, one of the biggest aspects to riding Supercross, pretty much non-existent in the official Monster Energy Supercross game. And that's like the whole skill to riding Supercross, other than, whoops. Oh, wait, those are completely non-existent in the official Monster Energy Supercross game as well. Every aspect of the game is way too arcadey, way too easy, way too for your grandmother, and that's all there is to it. But it's like, man, I just hope one day And it seems like they're somewhat stepping in the right direction here recently. I will say that. Like, when I mean recently, I mean literally 2018. It seems like finally, and it seemed like finally with the first official Monster Energy Supercross game, that's way more advanced than like MXGP 3. I say way more, not really, but it is advanced from MXGP 3. And MX vs. ATV All Out is more advanced from MX vs. ATV Supercross Encore. They are stepping in the right direction, but they've got to start leaping, man. They got to start running if they ever want to get to a reflex level, or even close to a reflex level. They've got to start skipping and hopping. You know what I'm saying? And they're just not there yet on either one of the games. So hopefully in like 2019, 2020, we'll see some closer back to what we expect from an actual decent arcade motocross game. Hopefully we will. But for now, Reflex is still the king 10,000 times over. It ain't even up for debate, in my opinion. There ain't even a question. It ain't even like you can even look at anything else and even attempt to try to compare or say maybe that's better. No. You can say the official Monster Energy Supercross game is better at graphics, but Reflex is better at literally every single thing else. Twice as good, 4 times as good, 10 times as good at every single thing else than any of those Milestone games. So it's just like all you guys that are trying to formulate it up in your head, like, you look at MXGP Pro and you hate the things that are wrong with that. And then you look at the official Monster Energy Supercross game and you look at the things that you like about that, you look at the things you don't like about that, and you're trying to figure out in your mind, what would be the perfect motocross game? What would be that perfect game? Good in-air physics, create your own whip design, scrubs, whips, turn-up whips, everything about it. You got amazing track designs, different dirt designs. You've got everything like that. 2 strokes, 4 strokes, and the bikes actually feel different. You've got big fun jumps, fun factor jumps, but also smaller, more realistic style jumps. If you're formulating that perfect arcade motocross game in your head right now, let me tell you something. It already exists, and it's called MX vs. ATV Reflex. Go check it out.